Hello and welcome to the Reference Point podcast.
Wait a second. You're not Paolo.
I'm not Paolo. That's some neat trick, that sense of yours. Paolo's on sabbatical, honey. And by sabbatical, I mean he actually went to go watch The Batman. That's why he couldn't be here today, unfortunately. Something to know about him, Paolo also has a horrible sense of direction, right? So upon leaving the theater, he asked us for advice on a shortcut on how to get home. And we said, no matter what you do not take a shortcut through Crime Alley. Do not do it. It's not worth it. Long story short, it's been a few days and your parents are really starting to get worried.
I'm sure he's fine. I wouldn't sweat.
Anyway, of course. So my name is Matthew and I'm joined by my other fantastic co-host,
Hey, what's up?
Anthony, the brother of our former host, Paolo. He will be missed. Today, we are so excited to be having our very first guest on the show. Specifically, this is going to be our show on Matt Reeves' new flick, The Batman, which is taking over the world by Bat Swarm right now. Honestly, the Reference Point podcast could not be happier. Our crew could not be happier with the person who has agreed to come on and talk with us today. You may know him as a host on CHOM 97.7. He is a man who has also been a heavy hitter in the music scene for over 2 decades now. You may have also heard his vocals for the Montreal-based metal band Slaves on Dope.
But we're not done. He is also an entertainment correspondent for CTV National News and the spokesperson for Montreal Comiccon and Heavy Montreal.
That's right. And you could also hear him on his own podcast, The Rockman Powerhour, with co-host Ryan Stick. Please, everyone, put your hands together for the one, the only, Jason Rockman.
Oh, that's the best intro ever. Thank you, guys.
Really? Thank you so much.
I praise.
You have so much going on. It was just like a real pleasure to even put that together. Like, damn, Jason is always so busy with, and we're missing a lot too. So, but honestly, we're not worthy. We're not worthy.
Oh, no,
So, obviously, it's always great for listeners and viewers to get to know the guests coming on the show. But this is also the first time that we've ever really had a conversation too. So can you just tell us a bit about yourself, maybe a little bit more in detail from the intro that we gave? What are your interests besides comics, which is predominantly what we talk about here?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty interested in. I have a lot of interests. I love music. I love comics. I love toys. I'm into street art. So like all behind me, there's a bunch of Ron English stuff. I'm really into Ron English.
Yeah. That's awesome.
He's art toys. I'm into a lot of stuff. I'm into sneakers. I'm not a sneakerhead though. I was into sneakers before the terms. I was into sneakers before people were sneakerheads. So, but I have a lot of interests. I'm really into movies, but movies are my big passion. Movies and music, pop culture in general. I'm like to call myself a bit of a pop culture aficionado, or more, I guess, just a fan. I'm a big fan. Primarily, I'm a fan. You know what I mean? And that's why, when I look at you guys and look at your stuff behind you and the stuff behind me, and it's just, it's passion. You know what I mean? And I like passionate people. So I just like connecting with people. So I have a lot of interest, but I think my main interest is human connections. I love connecting with people. I love having passionate talks about stuff that I'm passionate about, or I find out someone else's passion and see if we share it. So yeah, I mean, I'm lucky because all the stuff I do doesn't feel like work. None of the work that I do feels like work, which is kind of a win-win, considering I'm a guy who never, I never finished college. I barely got through high school. I think I got through high school because I cheated on my last I was just, I was in the right place in the classroom to pass, that horrible grade 10 history, which was brutal. It's the thing.
Agreed.
So I remember,
I love history on top of it.
Don't get me started on that class. Don't do it.
Yeah, it was awful. And so I'm considering what I started with and where I'm at. I'm pretty happy with the life I have now, but I think a lot of it is just because I put my head down and I just worked hard,
Yeah. And that's when you've hit your dream job too. It's when you get to work every day and it doesn't feel like work.
No, it doesn't. It's all, and I'm lucky because I know a lot of people at the age that I'm at that that are in places where they don't want to be. And I'm glad it never, it was tough sometimes. I had to make some decisions that were not the easiest decisions to make, maybe walk away with a chance of making more money, but I would much rather be happy than make money. I mean, to me, happiness is important. It's funny because I have 2 kids, 17 and 14, and a lot of their parents will tell them, "Oh, you need a backup plan. You need this." And I'm like, I tell them, you have 2 rules. be happy and don't hurt anyone. If you can do that, then you can do whatever you want. So
yeah, there's not a single word that you said that we disagree with.
Exactly.
Spot on, man. 100%.
Yeah, we don't like hurting people here on the show, so
I'm glad.
Unless it's Paolo when he's
when he's here
taking shortcuts through Crime Alley. Anyway,
so before we spoke that you're on CHOM, and how did you get started there? Like,
yeah, like what led you to CHOM?
Yeah,
it's funny because I started out. My connection with CHOM started when I was a kid because I was a big fan of CHOM.
Oh, cool.
Obviously, I grew up on the radio. Yeah, I mean, I grew up on the radio station. As far back as I can remember, I listened to CHOM. It was my first, my first exposure to rock music was through CHOM. And then in the '90s, there was they used to have this talent contest called the CHOM Esprit, and they would find the best bands in the city, and you would win the CHOM Esprit contest, and if you won it, you would get studio time. You would sometimes get flown to Canadian Music Week. And it was like a nice launch for a band. And my band, Slaves on Dope, won the CHOM Esprit contest, I think in 1994. So that was my first real connection with the station on a more level than just as a fan. And one of the jocks who spearheaded that whole competition, his name was Too Tall, who's retired now. Too Tall and I we became friends. And as we progressed with music and as we would go off and, we went off and did some pretty cool things, we always would keep in touch with Too Tall and let him know how we're doing. And he was always really proud of us. And there was a time where when I came back and I had my son, I decided not to tour anymore. And I kind of left the band we wanted a bit of a hiatus for about 4 or 5 years. And during that time, I did a bit of soul searching and tried other jobs and things I didn't like doing. And I got an opportunity. Someone said they're looking for an overnight host at Virgin. You should do a demo. And I was recording a new Slaves on Dope album with my guitar player. And I was like, hey, I should just do this funny demo. And I did a goofy demo. I sent it in to this guy named Patrick Charles, who used to work at Virgin. And he listened to it and he was like, man, this is much more of a CHOM demo. I'm going to give it to CHOM. So I ended up getting a call from CHOM and they were like, hey, we heard your demo. Would you want to come in and do like an audition read through? And I did. And a few days later, they called me and they offered me a part-time job 3 nights a week doing overnights, midnight to 5:30. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights. Thursday into Friday, Friday into Saturday, Saturday into Sunday, overnight. So I did that for a few. It was brutal. I did that for a few months, and I had a job I was working with my dad at the time, who had a trucking company, and I was dispatching like 10 trucks. So I was a dispatcher for a trucking company, and I was doing that. So after 3 months, they offered me a full-time position and I took it. And after a year, I left my dad's and went into radio full-time, like really full-time. So I fell into it. And it's strange because a lot of people will, work at a radio station in promotions and then like work as a board operator and just work their way up to get that chance to just turn the mic on. And I kind of walked into it, which I was very lucky, but I look at it as I paid my dues on stage for so many years with my band that I kind of knew what I was doing. And yeah, man, I lucked out. And it's the best fucking job ever. Can I swear here? Yeah.
Yeah, we don't mind.
I mean, I won't go crazy with it, but it's the best. It's the best job that I could imagine, having. It's an amazing job because I get to talk about music every night, and I work at a station I grew up listening to. So for me, it's, I've become a radio guy, but I'm not a radio guy where like, you get these radio guys that they want a gig so bad. So they'll go to like Moose Jaw and work there for, like be the morning man in Moose Jaw. Like that's not happening for me. If it doesn't work at CHOM anymore, I'll do something different. But I love the fact that I work at CHOM, and I love the fact that I can help bands out. That's the thing for me. The most important job at CHOM is being able to open the door for up and coming bands.
Well, speaking of bands, it's my understanding that you would also go on like tour with some pretty big artists back in the day as well.
Yeah. When Slaves on Dope was running, we were really active for about 11 or 12 years, really active, like touring all the time. And we ended up moving to Los Angeles, got a record deal. We signed to Ozzy Osbourne and Sharon Osbourne's record label. And we toured with everybody would have wanted to have toured with. I mean, we toured with Pantera, we toured with Ozzy, we toured with Queens of the Stone Age, we toured with a lot of really, really cool bands, and it was awesome. But it's like anything, man. We did it, and that time passed, and I'm really glad that, I still love music, and I love being on the other side and helping bands. I love the fact that, I can see a band that's young and hungry, and I've been there before, and I can understand. And if I can be that guy at the radio station that gets their stuff played, then I've done my job.
That's dope. Yeah, that's for sure. That's awesome, man. we also know that you're a spokesperson for various like Comic Cons and whatnot. Can you like elaborate on what exactly you do for them and how it works?
Because we love cons, man. We go to Montreal Comiccon.
Yeah.
Fan Expo in Toronto for sure.
Sure, sure. So my first experiences with Comic Cons were Fan Expo, and it's funny because you got to understand, when I did music, all I did for 11 years was music. Like I had tunnel vision. All I wanted to do was make it with my band. So I didn't really get to live life and do all these fun things that people get to do because I was always on the road. I was always touring. Maybe I would catch a movie if I could in the theater, but I didn't get to go to concerts unless it was like, I got to go to some cool shows if we were on the bill or if we had a night off and someone was playing, but I was on the road, sometimes 250 shows a year. So we were always playing. And what ended up happening was when I first quit the band and I came back, I was having my son, it was 2004, and I was hanging out at this local comic shop that was in LaSalle, in Villemart, actually, near where I was working at the time. And I just got friendly with these guys and I saw this flyer for Fan Expo. So I went with the guys one year and helped them set up and drove and I loved it. I mean, it was like the best experience ever. So for a few years, I went to Fan Expo every year. And I just thought this was the coolest thing ever. And I was always like, man, I wish we had a show like this in Montreal. And the first year that they announced Comic-Con in Montreal, I was freelancing for a newspaper. It used to be a newspaper called Hour Magazine. It was like a free local entertainment magazine. And
what year was that?
I asked them, what's that?
What year was that?
I believe it was 2006.
Okay, that's pretty late. Considering, yeah.
Yeah. So the first year that Montreal Comic-Con had guests, which was at Place Bonaventure, it was Lou Ferrigno, the Honky Tonk Man, the wrestler, and Jeremy Bullock, who played Boba Fett. Yeah, so I did, for the paper I was freelancing for, I said, do you mind if I go do a story on this convention? And they're like, for sure. I ended up meeting Oscar, Alex, and his wife, Liz, who are the founders of the show. And we started chatting and I wrote the article and I ended up taking the three guests out for dinner. And it was just like a real cool vibe. So the next year, by the next year I was working at CHOM, and then I was like, hey man, this would be a great way to maybe we could do something together. So for a few years I helped out, but I didn't really have a title, it was like I'm a media coordinator and like, it was just like whatever. And then after a few years, it was like, they were like, look, we want to pay you to really work for us. And I was like, I don't want to take any money. I just want to have this show be there for when my kids get older, that there's a show for them to go to, that they don't have to drive to Toronto. And we ended up sticking together for, I think it's 12 years now, 13 years. And I helped grow the show. And the show went from, we went from like 800 people, 1,000 people till now we get like 60,000. So, and then as they started getting more shows, I became the spokesperson for Ottawa, for Winnipeg, for Calgary, Ottawa, Winnipeg, Montreal, and Quebec City. So I do, and basically what I do for them is I'll do two things. I'll help promote the show leading up to it. So, if there's videos to do, and I'm basically a mouthpiece for hire. But what's good about it is that I promote the show because I understand it, and I'm able to go talk to media about the show and have somebody who doesn't know what a Comic-Con is explain it to them in a language they'll understand and have them be interested to come in. And then once the show's happening, I'll do some interviews on site. I'll host panels. So I'm kind of the spokesperson for those shows, which again is like fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's fun. It's like, and I got to see my kids grow up around the shows, and it's just fun.
Well, speaking of fun, like at least from my point of view, when I'm actually at a comic book convention, I tend to always just keep my head down, and I'm always hunting for deals in these long boxes and short boxes.
The amount of books you buy is,
so I don't really interact with the whole atmosphere as much as I would like. While you're at cons, like, do you have the chance to do that? Do you have the opportunity to really like dive deep?
So I have a system now that. And it's funny because I'm looking right in front of me is a bunch of stuff that I found. Like I found the Kenny Powers pop from Eastbound and Down. I found that at Quebec Comic-Con, and I remember so usually my pattern is in the morning before the doors open, I'll go through the dealer room and look and see if there's anything I really like, and then once the show opens, forget about the first couple of days, like the Friday and Saturday mornings, usually are slammed with media requests, and, like CBC shows up. So they're like, hey, so I'll do something with them. So I'm doing all that kind of stuff, but it's usually the Sunday. But I'll always scan and look and, I always, every year I buy something. There's always stuff that I'll buy or I'll be looking for, or it's the best weekend, man. Comic-Cons are the best weekend. Like, going to shows anywhere. I mean, I love going to shows all over if I can. Like I'm going to San Diego this year for the second
I want
time.
to go to San Diego so bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to LA from July 21st to the 26th, and I just so happen to be, it's the weekend that San Diego's happening, so I'm like, I can't be 2.5 hours away and not go. So I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna go for a day, just to Friday night, Saturday, just to be able to go. But yeah, I mean, I love the atmosphere. It's just filled with passion. There's so much energy from everybody that just loves that stuff. So
yeah, sure. Do you help get the guests into Comic-Con? Like, do you help secure some guests, or not really?
no, I'm not part of the programming department, but my wife is our coordinator. Like she's basically our communications coordinator for all of our shows, and so I hear when guests are going to come. Like she'll be like, oh, so and so is we're negotiating with them, and I'll hear stuff early, and I'm like, it's so hard to keep the secret, but
Can't talk about
you get the hot scoop and you can't say.
Well, yeah, but what happens a lot of the times, like I'll get a call from Oscar, or I'll get a call from Cliff, who's our director of program, director of programming stuff, and they'll be like, hey, what do you think of this person? So I'll be asked for my input sometimes, but it's funny how they'll ask me about an anime guest, and I'm like, I don't know, fucking clue, like I don't know. But then I'll ask my kids, and my kids will know,
Yeah.
But then I'll get excited about Carl Weathers coming because like I'm old, and like I like when those kind of guests come, those older guests that that touched on my childhood, but. It's I mean, I've been asked in the past and I've given my opinion a few times for sure, definitely. But I mean, it's always fun when we announce, like we have some stuff coming in April, like announcements and stuff. And we're excited because this is gonna be our first edition back, like full edition.
Yeah. Because we missed out on that as well for Fan Expo. But even when we go to Fan Expo, we usually always have to skip out on the Sunday just based on our schedule. But I'd like to maybe stick around on the Sundays, because I also feel like that's when dealers are like, okay, I really got to unload some stuff.
Yes, you're definitely going to get whatever's there. See, it's always good to get into a dealer room early if you're really looking for something before anybody grabs it, or if you're looking for something that's sitting and nobody really cares about, which a lot of the time, like the Kenny Powers pop, like no one cared about that in Quebec City. But when I saw that, and I think it started at, I think he wanted $40, and by the time Sunday came, it was like 25. So I was like, all right, I'm glad I waited. So,
and now it's worth 4,000.
No, not really. It's probably worth nothing. But to me, the fact that there's a Kenny Powers pop, like Kenny Powers he's my spirit animal. He says everything I he
love
says everything
down and down. So that means a lot to me too. Don't worry.
Oh man, he says everything I can. So it's great.
Exactly.
So Anthony always wants to ask this question for the future. Sure. We have guests on. I personally hate this question because it's an impossible question for me.
It's a hard one.
But go ahead, Anthony.
I'm gonna ask top 5 comic book movies.
And they don't
top
have
5
to be
comic book movies.
Superhero related. They could just be movies that were based on a comic book.
Yeah.
But like in no particular order, if you want.
I mean, dude, that's so hard, especially now. I mean, there's so many. Well, listen, I gotta say, Batman's up there. It's really good. The new Batman is just amazing.
I agree with you, man.
Agreed.
The first 2 Superman movies, the original ones with Christopher Reeve, those are like always going to be special to me. Avengers Endgame is incredible.
If I had to pick a favorite, that would probably be mine. Yeah,
it's up there. Winter Soldier is just fucking incredible.
Perfect film.
I love Civil War just as much as well. Yeah. I love.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. That's tough. I really, it's funny. I did not like Eternals. I bought it. Did you guys like it?
Listen,
I enjoyed it.
I think I have to rewatch it.
I definitely recommend. And you know what? I need to rewatch it as well. Maybe on my second viewing, I won't like it as much. But I felt like it definitely got way more flack than I think it deserved.
Yeah.
I really think it's a solid MCU film.
I mean, Joker. I loved Joker. I love the Batman. I love that. And it's really tough though. I mean, there's been so many. There were like 24 Marvel movies,
Yeah, literally.
Plus all the shows.
Now the show's incoming.
Yeah. I mean, I think Kick-Ass was a really good movie.
Kick-Ass.
First
Watchmen was really, really good. It's way ahead of its time. So that's tough. I mean, I guess I named like 9 there. But I think honestly, one of my, but the second Superman 2 is,
I love Superman 2.
Yeah,
it's one of my holy grails, man. I love that movie.
Yeah, my uncle and my dad especially, like they'll always tell me stories of like seeing Star Wars and seeing Superman when they were kids.
Yeah,
that must have been really surreal.
Yeah, I mean, seeing those movies in the theater, as a kid, it's just like I think it's the nostalgia factor, but I've rewatched them and they hold up, you know.
I think so.
They're
I think
great
so,
films,
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. But honestly, the Avengers movies are just they're mind-boggling. You know, they're so good.
I think my holy grail is Spider-Man 2, 2004, Tobey Maguire, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love those movies. Yeah.
I would say probably like Into the Spider-Verse has got to be top 5 for me. Like
Yeah.
just films. Yeah.
Incredible movie. Like, you know, incredible. One of the best Spider-Man movies, you know, but
I would say it is actually probably my favorite Spider-Man
It's
movie.
that and Spider-Man 2 for me. It's like a toss-up, you know.
That's
Yeah.
Two. I really love the first Amazing Spider-Man. I know people are a bit lukewarm on that one, but No
Yeah.
Way Home 2 is fantastic.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
yeah.
but
I mean,
there's a lot of great movies.
there really is. And there's been stuff that's been done, you know, outside of the Marvel and the DC that's been really, really good too. You know, like stuff that's been based on other, you know, but it's funny because I'm watching Peacemaker and it's so good. And that's the other thing, like the last Suicide Squad movie was amazing.
Yeah, one of my favorites too.
So good. So I don't know. I think this is a great time to be a nerd. I mean, when I grew up, none of this stuff was possible. And if they did it, it looked hokey. So the fact that we can really do justice to those stories now, it's amazing.
100%. So to pivot a little bit towards Batman, I would say.
Yeah.
I want to know before diving deep into like a spoiler-filled discussion on that movie. I know you're looking forward to that. We are.
Yeah.
I want to know like what incarnation of Batman, doesn't matter the medium per se, but like what iteration of the character was the one that kind of stuck closest to your heart as either as a kid or even now through adulthood? Like who's your Batman?
Probably Adam West, just because that's what I grew up on. You know, I mean, it's hokey now, but the Adam West Batman, it's what I grew up on, was Adam West. And then, I mean, the Michael Keaton Batman, I was 18 when it came out. So it was 89. I remember I'd just gotten back I'd gone to Europe and I got back, it was June, it opened up in June. And I remember going to see it in the theater and it was amazing. I mean, the first Batman was great, but yeah, I think probably I would definitely say the Adam West Batman. That was my Batman growing up for sure. Definitely as hokey as he was, and that Batmobile, I don't care all these other things that they do like that. The original, like the Adam West Batmobile, the 66 or 67, it's the best. Nothing touches it.
It's
we saw it
of its time.
We saw it at Fan Expo, I believe, right? It was there one year. Yeah, was it 2016? Was it the first year we went?
I think so.
Anyway,
it's the best. It's the best. That Batmobile is the best. That's my dream car. That and the car from Mad Max.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, yeah, for sure, 100%. So about Batman, on your own podcast, you had an episode, not an entire episode devoted to the Batman, but you definitely discussed it.
Yeah.
In a non-spoiler way, of course. I think you had seen it a couple weeks before the movie was coming out, right?
Yeah, I saw it really early, man. I saw the movie because I was talking to Matt Reeves. So I got to talk to him I think a week after I saw the movie, but I went to a screening, there was like 3 people in the theater and I was just blown away. I mean, the worst part was I couldn't talk to anybody about it because you're under embargo, right? So people were just asking me how good was it. I'm like, you have no idea. And that's all I would tell people. But when because a lot of times when you see stuff early, you're so excited about it that you don't know if it's your excitement or if it's really like that good. And it all, like, you know, when I walked out of Eternals, I hated it. And it's the first time I walked out of a Marvel movie where I was like, that was just too much. Like I'm done. Yeah. But man, I walked out of that movie and I was like, this is really amazing. And as it got closer and closer and people started seeing it, I started seeing more reviews like that. And then when IGN gave it like a 10 on 10 and all these people like, was it Chris Stuckman,
yeah.
Chris Stuckman, who I really like, you know, my son turned me on to him. Yeah. And he started saying all the stuff about the movie that I liked. And I was like, okay, so it really is that good. Mm-hmm. But man, I was blown away when I first saw it. I couldn't believe it. And I'm going to see it a second time this Sunday. I already booked the VIP and all that. I can't wait. My wife hasn't seen it.
I had seen, we went on the Wednesday, the fan first screening.
Yeah.
Then we went again on Friday in IMAX. And then unfortunately, well, actually, you know what? I was thinking that this would be unfortunate. Turned out not to be unfortunate at all. I was dragged to see it a third time. Dude, within 1 week, 9 hours of the Batman is like, it's like too much Batman. But you know what?
Yeah.
Seeing it again a second time in IMAX,
I
was expecting to be like, oh, this is too much. Really, I was not once bored throughout the
I mean, I've done that in the past. I've seen movies 3 times in like a week because I've been so excited about them. It happened with Blade, like the last Blade Runner 2049. I saw it 3 times. I loved it. because I felt every time I went into the theater and it started with a bong and you see the car, like
Yeah.
that to me was like, I wanted to be in that universe and I didn't want to leave. So when I was there, I was like, I was like, I want to be here. I don't want to leave. So I want to just go back and see it again. And the other movie I saw 3 times in the theater, I remember, was Goodfellas. When Goodfellas opened up,
I just
I saw
watched
it 3 times. I saw it 3 times and Casino too, the 2 of them. I saw them 3 times because I was just like, but Batman, I'm looking forward to seeing again because it's been a while. And my kids saw it last week and they were blown away. And my wife's excited to see it. So
That's awesome. But about that Matt Reeves interview, I think you wanted to ask him.
Yeah. Was there anything that you didn't really get the chance to say to him? Like, I know
yeah,
it's short.
it's so, when you're on a junket and you like, those are like the junket style interviews, you usually have 3 or 4 minutes, maybe 5. So I would have loved to have talked to him for 20 minutes. And that's why on our podcast, we usually talk to people a little bit longer, but when you get a chance to talk to Matt Reeves, you don't say no, but I would have loved to really talk to him about Planet of the Apes a bit more.
Yes.
I love Matt Reeves' filmography. Well, I haven't seen Let Me In yet, his remake Let Me In, which I hear is fantastic. I just watched Cloverfield last week in the spirit of the Batman. But seriously, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War for the Planet of the Apes, I feel have contributed to one of the just best trilogies, I feel, of all time. I think that Planet of the Apes is exceptional.
I'm a big Planet of the Apes fan. The old movies, to me, I know some of them are goofy, but they still hold up. I think they're great. The ape makeup is amazing. And it's still like, considering it was done like the 60s, it's still great.
Was it John Chambers? What was his name? John Goodman played him in Argo. Chambers, who did the original his makeup. Anyway.
But it's funny how the fact that Matt Reeves can take a computer generated animal ape and make you feel for them, the emotions you felt, like that shows you that obviously he knows what he's doing. So I would have loved to have had a chance to talk to him a bit more about that, but I listen, he's great, and everything I got to ask him was I got to ask him what I needed to ask him, and it was pretty much Batman. I mean, like, dude, like seeing Batman on screen for the first time and seeing him, when he comes on screen, like it's you're asking me which my favorite Batman was. The one I grew up with, obviously, is the one I'm the most nostalgic about, but he's the best Batman yet, hands down.
Yeah. Speaking of your quote, Rob, Pattinson is Batman, right? And then how does it feel for Warner Brothers to use your quote?
Oh yeah, when I wrote Pattinson is perfection.
It's perfection. Sorry.
No. I was really happy. I mean, because every time you see a movie, they send you quotes. They send you a request, like, can you send us some quotes? Okay. And sometimes they'll use them and you don't know, but like when they posted that on social media, I was like, oh, that's awesome. So I actually asked for a high res of it, and I went to Bureau and Go and printed it just so I could have it, like a physical copy, just to put away somewhere, because it was cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love this world so far. We're really going to dive deep into it. Spoilers very soon, but quickly, like, seeing Matt Reeves as a visionary filmmaker and what he did with the Riddler in this film, what other Batman characters would you really like to see in the sequels potentially, and that could really kind of thrive in this particular world that he's created?
I think he's got to take the approach of them being insane, and I think he's got to keep superpowers out of the universe, which like I know it's doesn't look like it's going to happen, but I really would love to see Joaquin Phoenix's Joker come in there. Obviously it doesn't look like it's going to happen, but
right. Yeah.
I think the Riddler, I think, like the thing is when you start getting into people like Mr. Freeze, it gets goofy.
Mr. Freeze.
I'd love to see a Mr. Freeze, but I don't know how you do it without it being goofy, so that's the problem. But I just like the idea of Detective Batman, and I think the idea of the underworld, forget about villains, but the underworld, like, he just going after the underworld and I think
would be really cool.
What's that?
Like Black Mask, Roman Sionis, like we're just crying.
Yeah, all that stuff, and Scare. I'd love to see a version of Scarecrow too, because I think Scarecrow can be done as we saw with Nolan. I mean, Scarecrow can be done in a way that it doesn't have to be goofy, but I love this, the best Gotham. It's the best Batman. It feels dirty and gritty and like you don't want to be there, and it feels like it's got dirt underneath its nails. So
100%. Sure. I would love to see, although really unfortunate, but a character like Mad Hatter could really exist well in maybe as a small minor character at the beginning of the sequel. just as a man who just really like kidnaps women. Like it's a very grounded, realistic, kind of disturbing thing, but
Sure.
I think it would really work well. A serious take on the Mad Hatter would be nice.
Yeah, I think just having them be insane, like a lot of the stuff that was in that movie was taken from David Fincher. Like you could tell he's influenced by David Fincher and by Seven and that creepiness, So yeah, I mean, I think as long as they stick on that, and I wish I wouldn't be, I know they probably won't, but I wouldn't even be upset if they pushed a bit more and they tried to go for maybe an R rating in one of the movies. But you got to realize, at least I realized when I was watching it, like they really borrowed a lot from the Netflix Daredevil vibe. I mean,
like that tone.
I can see that.
That tone and the way, like the way Matt Murdock and Daredevil, like when he's beating people up, he's beating them up. Yeah. I mean, the fight scenes, to me, the fight scenes in Daredevil, those 3 seasons are so well done. The choreography, everything about it is great. And when I was watching Pattinson, beating people up, to me, it was like, it really feels like, Charlie Cox's Daredevil. And so, yeah, it was nice.
So, given that obviously music is so like integral to your life and plays such a huge part in even your profession. I was really curious. Like I loved the Something in the Way marketing, the Nirvana song that they used in the trailers. And to see that actually be incorporated in the film was a really nice surprise to me.
Yeah.
Not really bookend the movie, but they did play it twice at 2 very different points in Bruce's journey. So I wanted to know, like, what are your thoughts on the inclusion of that song? And also, Anthony and I really, really love musical scores. Like I love listening to rock, 80s music, but then also like musical scores. I listen to that all the time in my free time.
I gotta show you. I just got a bunch of these.
Okay, cool.
I'm a big fan of John Carpenter, so I just got Halloween Kills.
That was a great score. Oh, actually, Kills. I haven't seen Kills yet.
Got Lost Themes. These are all like Carpenter's put out a bunch of these.
Yeah.
And it's just his themes that he's never used. So I love soundtrack stuff. I mean, I really, really do. And I like this. I like this soundtrack. The only thing is that the Batman theme is 2 notes away from Darth Vader's Imperial March. The da 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 da, and then it's da 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 da. So it's very similar and it's sinister and it works. But Mondo. You guys know Mondo, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So Mondo just put out the Batman soundtrack on vinyl yesterday.
Yeah, I just saw that.
And they had 2 versions of it, and one version went on sale at 1:00. I went on at 1:05, and I'm like, I'll be able to gone. So I knew that soundtrack was going to be big, and it's a good soundtrack. It's really, really good. I mean, I love soundtracks. So I thought the popular choices, like the popular music choices of Nirvana and stuff, that was really good. But the actual score was great.
I love the score. Honestly, while yes, you mentioning that it does sound very similar to the Imperial March, I think that really contributes a lot to the memorability. I can't speak. The memorability of the theme.
Yeah, of course.
It's so easy to hum, and it's stayed. The whole soundtrack has been stuck in my head.
I feel like I've been hearing the theme all weekend since I saw it.
Michael Giacchino's score, I absolutely loved. Riddler's theme is basically a variation of Ave Maria.
Yeah.
Right. Oh,
nice. If you listen to that carefully, you'll pick it up.
I think it was. Listen, I love scores. I love the fact that they're becoming more and more important to people as they listen. And like this is an art that wasn't always respected, but like there's a lot of great scores from the 80s that were done for some movies that are monster scores, and a lot of people, scores have been important. Don't get me wrong. Like guys like John Williams, but there's some really great scores that are out there for people to discover, like Dune, dude, the Dune score, Hans Zimmer's score, so good. It's so good. I mean, so I love that stuff. Definitely. The Batman score was great.
Yeah. So like even for me, like Spider-Man and Batman are my 2 favorite heroes. Spider-Man first, then Batman a close second. But I always found it interesting how Danny Elfman composed music for Spider-Man and Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Then, of course, we have Hans Zimmer, who did The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and also worked with James Newton Howard on the Dark Knight trilogy. And now also Michael Giacchino doing the Spider-Man Homecoming trilogy. Yeah. And now this new Batman variation. So I always find that correlation is really interesting.
Yeah. Well, they're good, right?
Gravitate towards those 2 characters.
Yeah, and these guys, obviously they're good, you know what I mean? And I mean, come on, it doesn't get bigger than Batman and Spider-Man for soundtracks, and Danny Elfman's another guy. He's just great. I mean, Yeah, I have a Beetlejuice soundtrack signed by him, and that's like Danny Elfman's amazing.
Back with Sam Raimi for Doctor Strange 2. I can't wait for that movie now.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
I love Sam Raimi. I just got the Evil Dead, the Groovy collection.
Oh,
You've
yeah.
seen it?
I was discouraged that they didn't include
Army of Darkness.
Army of Darkness. That's why I didn't pick
I think it was a rights thing though, or something.
It's probably right.
Yeah, but I mean, really, to get the first two in 4K and then that whole show, Ash versus Evil Dead, like I didn't have any of them on DVD or anything, so I was like, all right, this is worth it, you know. But for someone to upgrade, if you've already bought them in 4K, it was a bit like. But then when Amazon put it up, it's like $85. I was like, I'm gonna get it. And the set's really nice too. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I had the Army of Darkness, the Scream Factory one, so it was okay. But
very cool.
But yeah, but it's kind of weird. Like, why would you not include that in there? You know, it's like the Ghostbusters box. Like they did the new Ghostbusters box set, but they didn't put in the after or whatever the horrible one.
Yeah,
the Afterlife. Yeah,
I feel like they probably didn't include it just for continuity's sake too. It's like, you know.
Yeah, because it's not part. Yeah,
it's clearly like we're gonna throw Bill Murray out of a window and kill him. You know what I mean? Like it's clearly doesn't work.
Yeah.
Anyway. So I think now is a really great opportunity to finally shift to spoilers.
Okay.
You've said you haven't been able to talk about them on social media. Yeah, you haven't had an opportunity. So we know you're a busy man. So we don't want to keep you too long. Let loose, man. Jason, just go nuts. Talk about anything that's spoiler related that you wanted to get off your chest for so long.
I had so I mean spoilers. I mean, fuck, he's brutal. He's a brutal Batman.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love the fact that he's brutal. I love the fact when he's Bruce Wayne, he looks like he's been up all night. He doesn't look healthy. He looks like he's non-existent. He's glassed over. He doesn't look like he wants to be there. He wants vengeance. That's what, and
sure.
You feel that. You really, really feel that. And granted, there's different point. Like he's at a different point as Batman than we've seen. Most of the other Batmans we've seen have been more established Batmans that have been around for a while. This is like his second year as Batman, I guess. So
right. Or even in like Batman Begins, where it's like he knows from the get-go that he has to put on that Bruce Wayne mask, you know, for the as a public persona. But in this film, it's like he doesn't care. He doesn't care.
Yeah, he's full.
People. I saw a lot of people complaining about that Bruce Wayne wasn't in it as much. It was only Batman. To me, like that was like a positive for me. Like,
oh yeah,
I liked more Batman.
Yeah, of course. He was in the suit all the time. In the other movies, you felt like you had to get through this shit to get to the Batman. And
exactly true.
This is the opposite. And there's one thing that I've never okay. So obviously the surveillance tech with the contact lenses.
Oh my
I mean,
God,
that was awesome.
Such a simple thing that I've never seen done in a movie before.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Detective Vision was a huge part of the Batman Arkham video game series, right? Which we're huge fans of.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know anything about the video game, so I've never seen.
Seriously?
They're awesome.
You got to play those games. You're gonna love those games.
Yeah. So that's probably why to me it seemed like it was so fresh. Because like, oh wow, I've never seen that, but seeing that in movie was great. That scene when I guess they didn't call it Madison Square Garden, but they're in Madison Square Garden when he does that big fight, and when he's fighting on the rafters, and when he's down, and you're like he's going to get killed, and he does that adrenaline shot. Oh my God! And when he gets up, he's like that. To me was amazing. So I loved that. I liked all the interactions between him and Zoe Kravitz. I thought this is my dog. I thought they were authentic. I thought they were real. It didn't seem forced, you know? I mean, like I love the villains. I loved Falcone. Like
John Turturro, what a unconventional,
incredible. So good.
But it worked so well.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And the whole twist of him being Catwoman's dad.
Yeah.
And all that was just like, wow, you know, it was really, really good. And I thought it was well done, man. I thought from top to bottom, it was solid. It was a detective movie.
Yeah.
I thought, you know, like a lot of superhero movies will go really hard at the beginning and then fall apart at the end. It didn't, you know?
Yeah.
I thought it was great and I wanted more. And I've never been in a 3-hour movie that's felt like 2. And that's another thing.
It genuinely felt like 2:15, 2:20.
For sure.
It really didn't feel like a 3. Like when I went into the screening and it was like 9:30, they're like, it's a 3-hour movie. I'm like, oh, my bladder, like the whole thing was like, but this time I was like, hey man, I was good. I thought Andy Serkis was great as, you know, as
wish was
as
in
Alfred.
More. Yeah, I wish was in more.
Yeah, a lot of people I got a lot of people saying that. I heard that from a lot of people. I felt that I thought, but him in the suit, man, like when he comes out of the shadows that first time and has that fight on the subway platform,
Yeah.
it's just amazing. Like he's
the way Reeves kind of plays with sound, especially. I've never seen sound utilized so effectively in a Batman movie.
The sound of his boots,
so
intimidating.
And the Batmobile too was really believable because it felt like just a hot rod car.
Yeah.
Didn't feel like
that he pimped out.
Speaking of sound, in the IMAX screening, like I swear to God, like you feel shooketh to your core.
You feel on the sidewalk watching it.
Dude, like your whole body and seat are like shaking, especially if you're really sitting in the right possible seat where the front center speakers behind the screen are just blasting you in the chest. It's incredible.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's an immersive experience, and I there's been three movies I guess I've seen in the last year that are like must sees in the theater. Dune, obviously.
Yeah.
Spider-Man: No Way Home, and
of course.
this. They all have to be seen in a theater. Definitely.
Especially in IMAX. IMAX just adds to the experience. I find the sound was insane.
It really does. It really does. And we're doing the VIP thing on Sunday, and I'm excited. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, VIP is basically like Ultra AVX, but just with way more comfortable seats. So you'll get a good sound experience.
Oh yeah, no, that's what. And it's funny because I think that's one of the reasons why I didn't like Eternals as much, is because I went to see Eternals again in the morning, and we saw it at the VIP at Cineplex at Forum.
Yeah.
And we were the first. I think it was they just opened up, and they're like, "Well, we're going to screen it downstairs." I was like, "Oh, cool! I'm going to see the VIP cinema." And the seats recline.
Yeah.
And man, I think I must have nodded off because it was so comfortable.
Yeah, we saw Venom 2 in VIP, right?
We saw Venom 2, which felt like it hurt my wallet even more just because the movie's so short. You're like, wow, damn.
The movie started and ended.
Yeah, Venom was a challenge. Venom was a challenge.
Yeah.
I liked it, but it was a challenge.
Yeah, it's not for sure.
I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't like it. It was pretty bad.
Yeah. Well, you're part of a vocal majority, so it's fine,
Yeah, but it still made a boatload of money, so they don't care.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the best movie. It definitely wasn't the best superhero movie I've seen. But there were moments that I liked, and I liked the first one better. I thought the second one was.
Oh, really? Okay.
The first Venom movie I thought was better than the last one, but I was happy because my buddies in Czarface had 2 songs in there, so
awesome.
And I was really happy about. And then Tom Hardy raps on their project. He raps, and he's the one who he handpicked having them in that movie. So it was kind of
that's awesome.
That's a cool little nugget of info.
Yeah, he goes under a name, Face Puller.
Okay.
Or Freddie Pulitzer, but that's his rap name. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
Well, you've heard it here, folks, on the Reference Point podcast.
Tom Hardy is a rapper.
You want to hear Tom Hardy rap, man? He can rap. And they keep it under wraps, and I mean it's speculated, but I mean it's Tom Hardy, and he can rap. He's really good. So if you listen to Venom, if you look for,
it's so much funnier. That's so good. You like the movie more,
right? Well, that's what made me like it more. It's like, oh, he can rap.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Sure.
You know what is a standout for me in the Batman, dude? Colin Farrell as the Penguin is like next level.
Yeah,
dude.
He's unrecognizable.
That's the word that's constantly being thrown around. Unrecognizable.
You can't tell, man.
And like a lot of people are saying too that this Batman, while yes, of course it is dark, it's a Batman film done right, in my opinion. A lot of people are saying it's nihilistic, it's dour. There's no lighthearted tone to it whatsoever. I disagree. I think there's a lot of really, really great moments of humor come from character, and I think Cobblepot really contributes to that really, really well.
I think the movie ends on a real hopeful note too. Like the Colin was so extreme and
it's untrue. Like I feel like people are just kind of missing Bruce's entire arc. Like yes, I know he gives it via monologue at the end of the movie, which isn't maybe perhaps the most compelling way of showing how a character's grown, but I mean, but
that felt like a comic to me. So it's like,
it's great, and it also feels more like a detective film as well, right?
Yeah, like almost straight out of Batman Eagle too. So
but
he had there's a bit of a vibe with him that it like if you're dressing up as a bat to and fighting crime, like your existence is not going to be a happy one. You're going to be miserable. Like you're surrounded by garbage all the time. So what do you expect? I mean, you can't expect this guy to be uplifted. And I think it was it's someone that's looking to punish and looking to get, revenge for something. Like he's basically, working through his problems on other people's faces.
Literally.
You know what I mean? And finding his way of saying, well, I'm fighting, I'm fighting for something. But I think he finds his way at the end.
Yeah.
And obviously there's that big scene with the flare, and he starts helping people out, and then it's like, oh, okay, there's the Batman that we're gonna this is who we're gonna see in the next few movies, is this Batman. So it's yeah, exactly.
I think Pattinson's performance, especially in the scene when right after he pummels that Riddler goon, and Gordon takes off the guy's mask, and he's like, "Who the hell are you supposed to be?" And he's like, "I'm vengeance." And then when you see how it sits on Pattinson's face, it's like, oh no, what have I done? This is what I've become, and this is what I've allowed the city to become as well. I have to be greater than that, So I thought that was a really, really profound moment. I love
and that's
it.
when he goes and he saves with the flare, like saves all those people.
Yeah. So,
and it's funny because there was a lot of like there were a lot of nods to Nolan's trilogy. I think there's a lot of I think Nolan was a trailblazer to create a universe like that for Batman.
Yeah.
I just think that you can't compare, as much as I love Christian Bale and I love that trilogy, but you just can't compare Pattinson with Christian Bale. I mean, Pattinson is so much better in the suit. And it's funny because I've rewatched the movies. I rewatched the Nolan trilogy. Well, the first two. I didn't rewatch the last one, but recently, like maybe a month ago. And he's the best Bruce Wayne. Like Christian Bale to me is Bruce Wayne, is like, he's Bruce Wayne.
Like next level, yeah.
He's got
he's like he just has the right way to be an arrogant, aristocrat. Like he knows how to, but man, like in the suit, just looking at him in the suit and just the way the cowl is and that neck thing and just the voice, like it did not age well. It just didn't age well.
I like that Pattinson has like the open cowl. It looks so much better.
Same.
Yeah.
Just the whole chin just looks better.
But also just with Pattinson, like he has the opportunity and the potential to then become the best Bruce Wayne. I'm really curious to see where they go with that.
And I think he will. I think he will.
Yeah.
I think he will. And I think that, to me, the weakest thing about Batman has always been seeing him in the suit. It's always looked goofy. It's never been like, this is amazing. It's always been a bit.
He can never turn his neck.
You know what? Yeah. Exactly.
No.
And this is the first. And then Affleck, there was some hope, but man, no. I mean, it looked like a big blue fish suit at one point. It just looked awful.
Yeah, in the Justice League movie, the theatrical one,
I mean, they did do a better job once they got Snyder's cut. But I mean, at that point, it's like, it's like when a show is in its second season and it ends on a cliffhanger and you're hoping there's a third season and they cancel it.
Yeah.
So to me, the Justice League and that whole thing is kind of like seeing a show that you want to watch that you haven't watched. There's 2 seasons and the third one's never coming. I'm not even going to invest any time into that.
Yeah.
That happens to me a lot where I'm like, I'm not watching that because I know that I'm not going to get an ending. And
I have the same problem with the show that I know ends in such a terrible way.
Yeah.
The rest of this series is so fantastic. Yeah. Personally, I wasn't a huge fan of the final season of Game of Thrones. I
knew you were going to say that.
You know what I mean?
Game of Thrones always comes up.
I invested so much time, and do I regret watching it? No, absolutely not. I still think it was so incredible, but I have a much harder time recommending the show now, knowing the way it ends. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, to be honest, I just watched it with my wife because she's a huge Game of Thrones fan, and I got it for on 2 years ago. I got it for on 4K to watch it because we've never been able to see it properly because it's streaming, so it just looks like shit. But then when you watch the show, because there's so much, especially that last season, that's so dark.
Yeah.
That to watch it in 4K, it's like, wow. It's if you haven't watched it in 4K, it's worth a rewatch just 100%. For that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the cinematographer really honed in on that. Like, how most people's TVs aren't properly calibrated. Number one. Number two, you're streaming it, so like the bit depth, it just doesn't look as good. So So on 4K,
funny enough,
with HDR, it really allows that to kind of.
Funny enough, the cinematographer is same one on Justice League. So.
Oh really?
Yeah.
That's kind of Speaking of the cinematography,
funny that you mentioned that.
Cinematography in the Batman, dude. Fraser is like
great.
Killing June, man. Like this guy's crushing it. Like this guy.
Yeah, Mando season 1 also.
Mando season 1, he did it. Did he do the whole season or did a couple of episodes?
I think he did all, but like.
Okay.
Not 100% certain, but I know he did most of it. And
regardless, I love what he's doing.
Can't wait to see more of his work.
But before you had mentioned, obviously, how you weren't a fan of Eternals. Are you a little bit worried with the casting of who's basically playing this proto Joker, who's there at Arkham at the end of the Batman?
No, I think he's a great actor, and I don't know, man. Part of me is like, I know they can, but part of me is like, I think they're throwing us. They might be throwing a loop in there. They might be like going. I think they might be leading us down a wild goose chase, or like maybe they're messing with us. Because I don't know, when I know he's Joker, but then when I looked, it was like, kind of looks like Two-Face.
Okay.
Yeah, some people online say that.
Yeah, because I think nothing would be better than to dupe everybody and then have Joaquin Phoenix come in. Because I still think, I'm telling you, man, money talks, and I still think that with the success of this Batman, the idea of seeing Joaquin Phoenix and Robert Pattinson acting together, they're both great actors, and Pattinson's really respected in the indie cinema scene, like big time, man. Like,
Good
The
time.
Lighthouse is one of my favorite movies. Good time. Tenet. He's been in so many good movies, and he's great. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see them on screen together one day. I'm telling you, even if this is a version of the Joker, and he's like was influenced by that Joker, like who knows? But
there could always be multiple Jokers.
Like in the comics, there's 3 Jokers. You never know.
Exactly.
Yeah. In the screening of the film, I'm like, okay, here we go. Here's the Joker cameo. Fantastic. Yeah. Another Joker. Yeah. But after hearing what Matt Reeves said about his interpretation of the character, there's a whole lengthy article with IGN.
And how it helped the Riddler's arc too, helped wrap that up too.
So I was like, okay, and then on subsequent viewings, I learned to appreciate that sequence a little bit more.
Sure.
I was interested, but there's a deleted scene that Matt Reeves had to cut by his own choice. He said he loved the scene, but it just didn't work in the greater context of the film. Did you hear what that was?
No, what is it?
So basically, Batman ends up going to Arkham like earlier on in the film to speak with a prisoner who he had caught in his first year of crime fighting. And then we soon discovered that it was that proto version of Joker. And he goes to speak to him to basically get advice on how to capture this other killer. So very Silence of the Lambs, kind of like Hannibal Lecter. Right. So that sounded really cool. He said he's going to release it.
Yeah, he said follow me on the Blu-ray, so
sure.
So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, no, it was really good, man. And I'm excited that people are buying into it, and that I'm excited that it's not getting, I mean, there's always the haters, but that's just life. But honestly, there was very few, like everything I've seen has been positive. And even people that I had one buddy that saw it and he's like, I think I wasn't sure. And then he goes, I saw it a second time because my kid really wanted to see it. And he goes, it's really good. So
yeah, I think it does improve on subsequent views.
I saw a lot of people who said that they don't like Batman movies. It's like, they reboot him too much. And then they saw this movie. Like, it was amazing. Like, they loved it.
Well, I felt that way too. But then when I saw Pattinson was cast, I was like, it's going to be great. Because I had full faith in him. And these people going on about the Twilight thing, it's like, give that a rest. Like, no, the guy's an amazing actor. It's like Leo, when Leo was, he did Romeo and Juliet, he did Titanic, and people were like, Leo. But now look at Leo. Like, he's one of the most respected actors in Hollywood. So
look at Kirsten Stewart is nominated for an Academy Award, I believe.
Yeah, exactly.
Too, so
yeah,
they've passed.
No, they're good actors, Yeah. And Pattinson's like, look, I hate the Twilight movies. I'm not going to pretend I like them. They're awful, but it's just he's a great actor. He's a great actor, and man, The Lighthouse is one of my favorite movies. The two of them, like him and Willem Dafoe.
My hero.
Yeah.
Willem Dafoe is,
love Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
Sabbatical. I mean, he's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love him. Otherwise, I feel like we know you're a very, very busy man, Jason. We don't want to keep you for too long. Is there anything else that you feel you want to get off your chest, or this might be a good place to slowly start?
About Batman? I mean, I just think that it was. I think people need to see it, and I think that I'm looking forward to seeing on a second watch, because it's been a while now since I saw it the first time, and I'm anxious to see if I pick up on anything after. You
will.
Yeah.
There's sorry, I want to cut you off. There's an establishing shot, and I only noticed this on my third viewing. There's an establishing shot of like the Iceberg Lounge and then some apartment buildings, and I think there's like a train track overpass too, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. You could see in the top left corner the Riddler in that apartment building taking photos of the Iceberg Lounge.
Oh, nice.
Because that's the evidence that they're using, right? It was showing the Cobblepot like exiting the Iceberg Lounge and whatnot. So you see him in the frame taking photos, and it's very hard. It's very easy to miss. So
and Paul Dano too, man. He was great. He was great as the Riddler.
He was amazing.
great.
And I love the interpretation how, like, yes, it is very Zodiac killer-esque, but they still gave him a lot of room to play and explore the eccentricity of the Riddler that maybe we've even seen a little bit with Jim Carrey, him doing, or even in the Batman Arkham video game series.
The animated series.
The animated series is a little bit more collected, I felt, no? Or maybe
it's in line with the Arkham games,
anyway, and that to me, the Arkham video games version of the Riddler is like my favorite version of that character. Yeah. So they really allowed Paul Dano, Ave Maria, like that whole misdirection too with him, with Bruce thinking that the Riddler knows his secret identity, and that's what kind of like throws him off the investigation. And then it shows up. Yeah, it's fantastic, but incredible, and you really do appreciate it more in your second view.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, man. Well, look, bro. Honestly, number one, I got to give a huge thanks to Kyle for putting this together. We're really, really appreciative to him, and of course, we're really, really thankful and grateful to you for coming on and talking to us about the Batman. So quickly, where can we find you? Maybe on social media, if you want to plug anything for our viewers.
You can find it's on Instagram. It's the real Jason Rockman. Okay. Facebook too. Podcast is the Rockman Powerhour. You can get it wherever you stream your podcast or on YouTube. And we drop new episodes every Monday with me and my co-host Ryan, and got some cool stuff coming up. We got Ivan from Men Without Hats. We got Alex Lifeson from Rush.
Nice.
We got some really cool people coming up, and we just did an episode for International Women's Day with Taylor Momsen from Pretty Reckless and a bunch of other great female artists. So yeah, man, just check that out. And on CHOM 5 nights a week, Monday to Friday.
Always loving it. Keep up with the amazing content, Jason.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Take you so much. Have a good one and take care.
All right, man. Take it easy, guys.
Take it easy.